Hello and welcome to Too Old for This Shit, a Lethal Weapon fan podcast. Or actually, no, not Lethal Weapon, Loaded Weapon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was a great movie.
I suppose it was. Yeah. Can't argue with that.
Emilio Estevez at his very best. And Jules from Pulp Fiction. Why can't I think of that man's name?
Samuel L. Jackson.
Samuel L. Jackson, yeah. How could you not remember Samuel L. Jackson's name?
It's just the way you were staring at me. I think you pulled a bit of a fucking Jules there. You were just like staring at your eyes bulging. Oh my god.
Did I blink, motherfucker? He's actually in a movie coming up where it's like a western thing where he's the bad guy in it. It looks quite good. I can't remember the name of it. So
that's great.
There you go.
Fantastic.
What
news.
are you going to do?
Lovely update.
But
Very
yeah,
informative.
this week we're going to be talking about Frewaka. Frewaka?
Frewaka.
It's
Frewaka.
It's been distributed by Shudder. Anyone not familiar with Shudder, it's like basically Netflix for horror. It's very good. Actually, on the basis of it, I resubbed to it last night, and it's like £4 a month or something like that.
For a lot of horror films.
Because a lot of the movies that we're watching lately are actually horror movies, and a lot of them are actually Shudder exclusives.
Exactly.
And like by exclusives,
straight to the source.
yeah, Shudder basically would have distributed this. It's an Irish movie made like with a lot of funding from the Irish TV station Tina G or it's a television
it'll be the Irish
Canada.
Film Board as well and it's gone on, because I think an awful lot of it is actually done Oscailiga in the Irish language, so you get extra grants for that as well if a certain percentage of your film is within the Irish language.
But yeah, it's, I suppose before we get into the whole thing with it, like we're going to be talking, because it is like in Irish. I suppose like the main gist of this podcast is going to be quick review of the film, and we're going to be talking about it, and then I suppose the importance of the Irish language with films like this and other bits and pieces, because
mythology and stuff in Ireland and storytelling, that kind of stuff.
Just about like, because it seems to be that there seems a bit of a resurgence in Irish lately with what are they called, kneecap.
Oh yes, I suppose,
Spreading it. Like, I wouldn't particularly like kneecap. That's the thing, I haven't really listened to them. They're just not my kind of thing. I like drone metal, death metal and black metal, so I like rap, but I don't know, I'll give them a chance at some stage. But they're doing great for spreading the Irish, because they rap in Irish. I think they're from Belfast, are they?
Yeah, Northern anyway,
so it's like, which should be one of the things that people are familiar with Ireland. It's like, even Ireland with, like, it's speaking English in one county, which is probably the size of a fucking small town in another place, you'll probably have 50 different accents.
Yeah.
So then between all the different counties, there's 26 in the Republic and 6 up in the north.
Yeah.
And they're all different. Each county you go to is different, and it has variations.
It is. Every village is different from the next village over. Now, I know that's the same could probably be said of like England and sort of smaller European countries.
No, it's not. We lived over in England for a while, and there is
there is a bit more of a generic, I suppose.
Yeah, there's a split between northern and southern. So there's a difference between, say, Scouse and, like, we were down in Devon and Cornwall, and down there where they're like ooh-ar, but it's still a little bit ooh-ar.
There are slight variances though, like between Devon and Somerset. Like the Somerset is a bit softer and there's more Z's in it, like, Somerset, rather than, in Devon it's not quite as Z.
I shagged my sheep, I did.
Alright, my lover.
Yeah, my lover. But then, like, you got, like, London, or what seems to be, like, an Essex accent now, kind of more, rather than, like, alright, mate, alright.
This is going to turn very...
Probably
you're going to have people from England kind of going, none of us speak like that.
Hey, look, we fucking lived over there for 10 years now. Say 33 in the third. It's not the... It's wasp. I fucking know it's wasp, stupid cunts.
We call it wasps though.
Yeah, the proper way of pronouncing it is actually wasp. And wasp is actually the posher way of saying it.
Like a vase.
But
and
it's these fucking savages in England that need to be re-educated.
That's another strand, I suppose, that you need to take as well. I mean, like, the English that is spoken in Ireland is actually, it's its own peculiar form of English. It's like Hiberno English, because an awful lot of it actually comes from the way Irish is phrased. There's a lot of like say
we speak backwards basically.
Yeah, basically
we don't say I go. It's go do. It's a bit like Yoda actually.
A little bit, yeah. It's kind of like if you phrase it like Yoda and all the rest, like say one of the best examples would be like I do be. I do be going to school of a Monday, and it's like instead of like I go to school, it's like I do be, because it's like I am going to school of a Monday. It's this weird kind of a direct translation, you know.
Yeah, and it's I think it's different from county to county with that as well. But yeah, and like it's because Irish people have gotten around fucking nearly everywhere. So there's like these islands over in the Caribbean where they speak Irish, and I think that's one of the Caribbean accent is like a mixture of their own accent and Irish.
Yeah,
and the way that they speak it.
Yeah.
As well, because it's like fucking a lot of Irish missionaries went over there and like settled over there and probably had children with the locals, you know. But it's like say Trinidad and fucking all those countries. It's like an Irish, like I think in I was going to call it Superama. What the fuck, Futurama. Superama. This is like getting old.
You are old.
But where he's like the Irish spaceman, where it was like for what's his name, the accountant Hermes.
Yeah,
that's what I remember they were calling him. He's like a talking Irish potato spaceman, but he's like, I'm from Trinidad.
Yes, but I suppose kind of phonetically, I suppose a lot of the sounds are the same, and the kind of the actual the inflections and the cadences and the general flow of the language as well. I think I can't actually remember who said it. I suppose it's Dylan Moran as he gets called in England.
Yeah,
kind of said the whole thing about like an Irish head is like, you know, it's like somebody is trying to escape out of their own skin kind of a thing.
Yeah,
like, you know,
they're walking against the wind.
Yeah, but it's like that's, I think somebody described the Irish language as like somebody wearing an ill-fitting suit, like the shape he'll burst through it underneath, and I think that's a very poetic way, I suppose, of doing it as well. You know,
or in 30 Rock, the way that they also say it's like the big Irish head on you,
and it genuinely is.
Yeah. But we're getting away from Frewaka.
Yes.
So summing up the plot, because we don't want to give spoilers away for it, but it's this woman, her mother is after dying. She's like a support worker, or she might be a trainee nurse. She gets a call to go to a place where it's like an Irish speaking village, which there's like some of those scattered around Ireland. So she goes there, and it's the usual thing. People are like, whoa, tell her to go home. Oh, they're kind of like surprised that she speaks Irish. So she gets there, the old woman doesn't really want to have anything to do with her, and
things turn mysterious.
There's a lot of, if you're Irish, I think if you're Irish of a certain age, you'll pick up what's going on nearly instantly with it. Or if you fucking read Hellboy, you'll pick up a lot of what's going on instantly. So there's like, there's things going wrong and things going a bit weird. It's all a bit sinister.
Well, I don't think it's any great spoilers to say. Like, I mean, it's in the review. It's in the strapline of the film about like it deals with Nashi, which is like fairy folk.
Yeah. But but it's there's stuff going on. That's all that we say about it. So what do you think of it?
Really enjoyed it. Again, it's...
before we go, it's all in Irish. There's like only a little bit of English.
Like 20-30%, I suppose, is English. So get your subtitles out, everybody.
Yeah.
But really enjoyed it, because I actually wasn't expecting it to be in Irish. I knew it was an Irish film about like Irish kind of subjects and all the rest, but I did not expect everyone to be speaking the Irish language.
That's why I turned the subtitles off at the start. I was like, it's only going to be fucking a bit for a couple of minutes. And I was like, what?
And bear in mind as well, the general Irish person does Irish in school, but generally not to a level where you can hold conversational Irish.
Yeah, I think most people, definitely our age group, I think we did not really. It was, you were forced to do Irish.
Well,
it was just something that you kind of had to do.
Of the language. That's what it was. It was like having to study maths, and there's not that many people that be like, oh my god, I love maths and I can't wait to speak in like X's and Y's and stuff.
If you're a robot.
Yeah, maybe, but that would be zeros and ones.
But I think that's really bigoted, Laura.
Yes, I know. But I suppose, like, bringing it back around, I was pleasantly surprised, just because the Irish language, it is actually a very beautiful melodic language to listen to. I'm only sorry I'm not able to understand it more, even though I did it up to fucking university level, but when you don't converse day to day, you kind of lose a lot of it. And funnily enough, actually, I could understand the Northern Irish accent much more clearly than the any of the Southern ones, which I'm sort of Southern. I should be Munster Irish myself. And it was just a little bit clearer.
People don't know they're like monsters. Horrible Munster was Irish.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, it was just nice to hear Irish being used not as a sort of like, oh, it's all lofty intentions. It's just like,
it wasn't like Oscar Wilde shit.
Yes, it's just people living their day-to-day lives, having a chat in the village, Oscar again.
And it was genuinely funny in parts. I think it's very, very Irish. There was like this young fella keeps hanging around with a goat, and there's a bit where your woman, like in another film, I think it is meant to be this thing where it's like really sinister and people are like, oh God, what's going on? But in the Irish thing, if he hears and she's like, do you have a fucking home to go to? Yeah, fuck off.
Stop following me around, yeah.
And he's just like, Jesus.
yeah, exactly, yeah. But there is that.
But it's all in Irish and it feels really natural.
Yeah, that's it. And I suppose if anyone's ever watched Father Ted as well, you'll probably see where the husband and wife team come from in the shop. Because it's very similar. There's a shopkeeper and she's very much in that ilk of like.
But they are like that. Like we had that. Like where I presume he had it out here as well. But it was basically a shed someone had as a shop.
Yeah.
Like people don't realise with Ireland, like the 70s and the 80s, it was third world stuff. Like obviously before Lang, like it was fucking like. But it was like we grew up in a third world country.
Yeah, pretty much. You'd have somebody just convert their garage into like a shop and they'd have like.
Oh, this wasn't even a garage. This is like a shed. It was mouldy and stuff, and she'd have like you get the smell of like rotten bananas when you go into it, you know. And I think all that she reads over was like Mr. Freezes and maroon bars, and, you know. It was not really that you'd
macaroon.
Want, macaroon, yeah.
But but that's nobody will even know what they are because they seem to be very Irish kind of products. But there's still one or two shops like that today where like. Over the road from us, it would have been like somebody's house. They convert their front, their parlour.
Sure. They only close that down.
Into a shop. So basically, they were more or less open 24 hours a day because all you'd have to do is their front door is open. You walk in, you just knock on the counter, and somebody sticks their head out from the sitting, and they're like, "Oh, I'll be with you in a minute."
Oh, the neighbours beside where I lived did it at one point thing as well, and Lidl opened up, and they just went off and they were buying all the stuff from Lidl and selling it for
reselling it at a higher price.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, we all know where Lidl is now. Yeah. But there's still a few shops, like there's one in the middle of town actually, the one that's around the corner from where I work. There's so you can literally you can look into their sitting room behind the shop and they're like watching Coronation Street or whatever.
But I think it's a good depiction of Irish life, and it's not fucking
it's not a diddly eye leprechaun kind of like a it's I don't want to use the words cultural misappropriation. It's like it's just genuine rural life. Yeah. That's what people live.
It's probably the most realistic. Sure. Yeah. Apart from like the fairy. Oh, that's really realistic too.
That's exactly. Yeah.
But even the look of everything is spot on. The way people like the acting, I think, in this is fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
Especially because these people, like, I mean, I presume Irish is their first, like, that they were probably, like, you know, from the Gaeltacht, which are, like, regions where people speak Irish.
Yeah, almost exclusively, So it's first language rather than taught in school as the second,
Like, if they weren't Jesus Christ, they were, like,
they're doing very well.
That'd be like someone just fucking going over to, I don't know, Sweden and not knowing a word of Swedish, and like, I mean, we've seen it happen. I always feel sorry for fucking, say, sometimes you get these big stars from Japan or China, and it happened a lot in the, like, probably the early 2000s when kind of people started, like, cult movies started taking off. So you had people like Jet Li and all that. So these Antonio Banderas as well.
Yeah, learn everything phonetically.
Yeah, but coming on, and they were like big stars in their own countries, and then they went to America to make films. And they didn't have a fucking word of English, and then it's like lines are being fed to them when they're doing it, and then people, like, you know, were like,
you can speak English. And it's like, well, they can probably speak 3 other languages. You can.
But, like, you know, where you kind of go with, like, Jesus, it's like, I know you want to get your brain, but, like, yeah, basically kind of like it's fantastic to be able to act in a language that you're not, well, it is their native tongue.
Yes, exactly. It is our native. Yes, it is our native mother tongue. But I suppose, like, going back to the whole thing you were saying, the look of it, I happened to read an interview there with the director, Aisling Clark, I think her name is, and she was just saying that, like, people are asking her, like, God, you know, the house looked very authentic, and, you know, where did you find it? Because, like, bear in mind, Ireland is a very small place, so if there are kind of, like, cool old sort of houses like that, chances are somebody else is already after filming there as well. But she said it was just literally, it was on the border between north and south. Went in and it was literally some guy and his son or his daughter or something were living there. And said they literally didn't change a thing. It's exactly how this guy is living with, the dustbin in the kitchen and sort of the old-fashioned bedstead, the old-fashioned, everything is just exactly as was. She said they didn't have to do any set dressing. The only thing they did have to do was there was a very specific door within the house. That's part of the whole story. Obviously they had to create, sort of shimmy that one up. But everything else in the house was just, they literally walked in and down to the floorboards and the curtains and all the rest are like, great, lovely, fantastic, exactly what we're looking for. Don't even have to dress the set.
Well, it's what you were just saying with the director Aisling Clarke, who she did a movie, which I'm fairly sure is on Shudder, or we saw it on Shudder. The Devil's Doorway was like, I think it's a lot of other shorts and things like that she's done. But The Devil's Doorway was really, really good. And like that, I think to a certain extent there was stuff about it was set in an Irish home for fallen women, which would have been like a Magdalen laundry. And this deals, or kind of a Frewaka deals with Magdalen laundries as well. And I suppose it's the thing kind of nowadays, because people need to have a little bit of warning, but like it doesn't really cover it, but it talks a bit about like child abuse. Say one of the main characters, she was in a Magdalen laundry, and so for a while you're like, is this all like post-traumatic stress? And like even at the end you're kind of like, well, maybe it is, because like they both go, I'm fucking mad, my mother was mad, and it's kind of like madness runs in the family, and then it's like they were tortured when they were kids. And
but I suppose the question then is like, did the madness come before or after being incarcerated in, like, and abused and kind of whipped down by the church or by whoever was, sort of doing the thing? But I suppose that's, again, for people who don't know, I'm sure most people would probably have heard about the Magdalen laundries. Basically Ireland is a bit repressed as regards sexuality, all that kind of stuff. So if a girl happened to fall pregnant outside of marriage, outside of a steady relationship, well, it was her fault, nothing to do with the man. She was whipped off out of her normal life. She was sent to essentially a convent with nuns, more or less into indentured slavery.
Yeah, the children would have been sold off.
And
if they weren't killed, because there was like fucking...
Yeah, there was a lot of...
There was one place where it was like... a septic tank full of fucking babies.
Yeah, they just threw babies
and
into
there's a bit where one of the main characters in this, when she's talking about, say, the land of the Fae, she's like, oh, it's fucking basically chaos, it's hell, and this and that. And she's like, it's septic tanks full of fucking hundreds of dead bodies. And that's basically what happened. I think it was 800 bodies, I think, roughly, or something like that. The children was found in a fucking septic tank, in one of these places. Which I don't really talk about enough. Kind of.
I think the trouble is, I think in Ireland, it's not a fatigue about it, as in like people are still rightly horrified. But I think it's just like people are like, well, sure, of course, like everyone knows now at this stage that it's just, it's atrocity after atrocity after atrocity. So I think the surprise is not there with Irish people anymore. It's like,
I think people are too busy with their TikToks, but like this is one of the things I think is great about the movie. It's got a lot of subtle stuff going on to it. There was a movie we saw, I think it was called Unwelcome or something like that, where it's basically about goblins, but it was meant to be like fairies in Ireland. It was like a relatively big budget, but it was kind of a comedy horror movie. It was very good, I thought, but that was playing up more. I think it was like an English family moved into, and it was like, oh, these, they're warned, don't fucking, or make sure to leave out a plate of milk or something like that. But it's stuff like that. It's what you normally see. This is a very sophisticated, I think, take on Ireland, rural Ireland.
Well, I think
and like the Irish language being predominantly featured in, which we keep saying, like as well.
But I mean, the name, like, I was kind of like, it didn't strike me initially as an actual Irish word, Frewaka, because I don't think there's like mostly K's in the Irish language. But again, Aisling Clarke, the director, described it as it's essentially the kind of the literal translation is roots, but roots is not quite powerful enough of an image, I suppose, is what she was saying. It was like this is something that goes way deep down and winds and curls and captures and sort of entangles and all the rest. So it's a little bit more than just roots, which is like, well, so
you have to, it sounds like a Norse word, but you have to remember as well, like Ireland,
Vikings, yeah.
Norway, Denmark, fucking Finland, Greenland and Iceland in particular are very kind of like interlinked with Ireland. Like basically fucking, from my understanding, I could be wrong on this thing, I'm not a fucking historian, but like where the population of Iceland came from was that it was like Vikings that went off with like Irish women. So it was predominantly Irish women. So that's like, there's a lot of words in Icelandic that's very, and Icelandic people are very like, it's nearly kind of like you don't know much about Icelandic people. Like, remember Bjork showed up and
Yeah,
was like,
people were like,
where
wow.
the fuck is Iceland?
Yeah, people actually lived there.
But like Iceland seems to be very similar to Ireland, apart from they're all fucking giants there.
Are they?
Yeah, a lot of the strongmen came from, and like fucking what's his name? Thor. Was it Thor or whatever?
Hodor?
No. But like there's a lot of like really big people. Magnus Magnusson, he was like,
Well, actually, that's I was just had it in my
and a lot of
head.
CrossFitters are like Icelandic.
To say that, like, the naming convention in Iceland, I know a lot of countries have it, but it's like, you have your Magnus son and Magnus daughter.
Yeah.
And it's like son of Magnus and daughter of Magnus.
Yeah, where it's like, oh, Mac.
That's, you have, like, in Ireland, you have the same convention. You have, like, say...
Or knee, isn't it, for
yeah,
a car?
MacDonagh is like the, and then knee or fee, you've got your... daughter. So it's just there's little kind of linguistic similarities there.
Like I got a book on Icelandic magic years ago in mythology, and I was reading through it, and a lot of it you kind of go, it's a mixture of like Norse and Irish stuff, but even like a lot of the Norse stuff was taken from old Celtic stuff, because the Celts would have been around probably before, like well before fucking kind of like Norsemen, with things like, we're probably one of the older races, kind of like, say that would have been, I suppose, say for lack of a better, civilised. Sure, it wasn't Irish people invented gardening.
Well, I suppose, kind of horticulture type stuff.
Horticulture kind of came here. It was like it predated Egyptian farming. And I think agricultural, kind of like say with cows and things like that. That was like
animal husbandry
here.
and stuff,
So it's, language wise, we're all very similar. We don't see, because I think there's not too much interaction between like Norway and Ireland anymore, or Scandinavian countries and Ireland anymore, where it's because like Europe is after becoming this, and I think as well when like Ireland has a great relationship with America, because like so many fucking people from Ireland went to America.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So like Irish culture and American culture very, very, very similar. So it's like modern Ireland and modern America, apart from the fascism.
Yes,
but like fucking Ireland, can't fucking say, because like up until a while ago, Ireland, I think fucking Ireland has its history.
To head down a bit of a route, all right, but I think Irish people are after pulling back a little bit after realising that's.
I think everywhere did.
Yeah.
I don't know why it seems to happen every 100 years.
Yeah, you always have a swing over to the right, and then thankfully most people go, hang on, I don't.
Well,
actually,
it didn't. Like I take say 100 years ago, that didn't happen. It went into fucking World War II. Now I think, thank God, the world did seem to, because people were like, everyone's after forgetting, and it's like, no, people didn't forget. It's just these people are after taking advantage of a situation, but there's people standing up to it, which, before it gets to the point of, hopefully before it gets, like, I mean, there's terrible things going on, but like that's a different
conversation way beyond their limitations. Yes.
Yeah, but
yes, back to Frewaka.
Back to monsters.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I quite liked it as well. Again, going back to, because as you mentioned, there's a kind of through line of sort of, the Magdalene laundries or any of that kind of stuff. There's virtually every person in the film is a strong female character. If you think back on it, there's very few men in it. It's like the main character, she's got her fiance, who is a Ukrainian woman. Yeah, she's going out to the old woman out in the rural village. Again, she's fucking very headstrong character. You've got the woman in the shop, she's a fucking strong character. She makes friends with that woman called Maeve. It's strong women characters. Her mother, even though she's not present for most of the film, she's a strong presence again as well. So it's all this sort of, I suppose, just Irish women and the hand they got dealt as well a lot of the time.
But this is the thing, like we've talked about this at length over the years, and it's one of the things that separates Ireland from countries that are closer to us. When we were over in England, found, and this isn't to tar everyone with the same brush, but it was a bit more sexist than Ireland. The general attitude was a bit more kind of like, there, love.
Yeah, it's like little wifey at home kind of thing. Yeah.
Thing. In Ireland, it's a even though Ireland is painted as this fucking place because of like people abroad with this kind of thing, like Irish drunks beating their wives, kind of like, and this and that. Where Ireland was the first place to give women the vote. Had the first president.
First female president. Yeah.
It's Ireland is always like Ireland had like queens that were like ruling the country, warrior queens. For the only and maybe the first female pirate was Irish. Ireland has always been on an equal level. Like, you know, there was always equality there. I think fucking kind of like something happened kind of. I think when the English
Catholicism
invaded,
as well, I think didn't help,
between Catholicism and the English invading, something happened.
It turned from not necessarily a matriarchy, even though an awful lot of lineages would have been traced down through the matriarchal kind of side of things, but it did turn very strongly into a patriarchal society kind of thing.
And like, I mean, even Irish religion, even Ireland's take on Catholicism,
the Virgin Mary,
people kind of worship the Virgin Mary more than kind of like, you know, say Jesus. It's like, her baby.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, look at this strong woman.
And like Saint Bridget, where it's like, I mean, the Irish Catholic, that's another fucking conversation for another day, where it just whips in like a load of pagan stuff into it to form like our version of kind of like
that's
Catholicism.
the whole thing. I think Ireland is very good at doing that. It's good at assimilating other things. Like if something has been forced on Ireland, it goes, okay, if we have to fucking speak English, if we have to be Catholic, we'll do it, but with our own fucking flavour. You're not going to get rid of the old ways.
To a certain point, it's like, I don't think people, and like, I mean, for people that are outside of Ireland, I don't know if Ireland is fairly multicultural, and it always has been. Like, I mean, most Irish people say, I'd be a Norman, right? And to go back, kind of like, most Irish people are not like purebred fucking Irish. No, you're not.
I am.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
Prove it.
My surname, which I'm not going to say on
How come you look so Asian then?
That's racist, just because I'm dark-haired and squinty-eyed. Which is incredibly racist.
I didn't say that. But
not on the podcast, you didn't. You say it to me all of the time.
It's like platoon something. It's the thing. Ireland is very multicultural, and it's
Irish people, I think, are very well travelled because a lot of times they have to be, because most people leave for fucking
apart from, like, I mean, you know what we're talking about, that there's a rise of the right around most of the world. There's been like attempts to do that in Ireland over the last couple of years, particularly over the last couple of years. So you got these like anti-immigration people. And whereas you see these things like in other countries where it's like hundreds of people turn out and they're like, they're trying to get into power and this and that. In Ireland, like in the place where we were, it was three people?
Three people who were bussed in and basically kind of stood around going rah, and then like got told to fuck off home for themselves.
It was by a bunch of people saying, we don't want you, fucking kind of like fuck
get
off.
Lost. Exactly.
Because like there's, now I could be wrong because I don't know, kind of like, I'm sure everyone has their own story, but I think like when we were teenagers, there was like, Ireland kind of opened up the doors with refugees and stuff. And I think there was a lot of attempts made to make people feel welcome anyway, for one, and as well to integrate.
Yeah.
So I think, looking at it now, I think it's been like really successful. Like, I'm sure if you went looking at it, you'll fucking have a bunch of races.
And I'm sure as well, if you speak to everybody who's moved here, everyone will have different experiences. But on the whole, I think Irish people, part of the culture is to be kind of at least superficially welcome anyway. It's like, you're nice, you're not, you know, like we do the same to other Irish people. You're kind of nice and chatty, come in for a tea and biscuit, but it's like, don't talk to us about any deep conversations.
But like, I was in the hospital there a while ago, and I was talking to the doctor in there, and he was a black fella. And I was like, oh, he's like a really... I thought he was a Dublin accent. I was like, oh, where are you from in Dublin? And he was like, oh, I'm from kind of like where I'm from. And I was like, oh, fuck. Kind of like, you know, when we were told. And it's just, I don't know how to... Because I do say to you a lot about it, how nice it is to see someone who's quite obviously not...
Yeah, he's like second,
like, he is Irish. Like, I don't... But second or third generation Irish, you know, I don't mean it kind of like, you know, but like... And to hear and... that level of integration.
And they're Irish, and there's no question that they're Irish.
That it's like, say, maybe over a 20-year period or 30-year period. And like, there's I fucking can count on one hand the amount of times I've heard people in Ireland say something bad about people from other countries moving in.
That's, like, I suppose, if you take it as well, kind of the successful integration kind of road, I suppose, if you go to America, everyone's like, oh, I'm Italian American, I'm Irish American, I'm fucking, whatever. Everyone has their own kind of identity, whereas here, most people is like, I'm Irish.
Yeah.
And you get that, as you were saying with the doctor you were talking to. It's like, and you just go, yeah, you're Irish. And you don't, there's not a lot of like, the usual thing in America, like,
where are you from?
Originally, that's what I mean. There's
it
not
was
that
just like,
here.
where are you kind of like, from, because, you kind of go with because you're like that with everyone in Ireland, where the accent you're kind of like, and it's Dublin and Waterford accents are kind of similar, even though there's a big gap between them. It's really weird. I don't know if it's because they're port towns or whatever. But I'm kind of getting away from it, but it's kind of like, say with it was kind of, say with integration and things like that, say bringing it to kneecap, like rap is really big in Ireland. Like, I mean, it's not as if rap wasn't around before, like, say, people from other countries were coming into Ireland, but something, there was, like, I think there was a big drill scene. I'm not fucking in on drill or anything like that. There was a big rap scene up in Dublin, with people from different cultures. And it's after, like, the way culturalization should happen, it's where it should be a positive thing, and people should go, I really like that part of it. And, like, I think this is a fucking thing where, like, when people are going with that, appropriation, I think that's a shitty term for things. You should be appreciation
than appropriation.
It's because there should be some melding over time, like, where you kind of go, oh, that's really cool, because like if you have this kind of separation there, you don't really get that, where it's like, if you, like, when we were young, there was I think he had it as well, we used to have people from Kitui, from Africa coming over to
kind of like, twinning programs and stuff.
And it was James and Camilla, and they'd do stuff like we used to do tie-dye t-shirts, they'd like do music, like African music, and they tell like African fairy tales and all that. And
then in return you'd share the Irish version of that, like Irish music and Irish fairy tales.
Oh no, they'd ask them, we'd be like, no, fuck off, back to your own country, we got what we want.
But that's what I'm saying, it's like, I think if you have this whole thing of like, as we're going back to the cultural appreciation versus appropriation, if you keep things separate, it's almost denying people their identity, because people have their identity of like, well, this is my culture, I'm also part of this culture, so I can't have the two things together. So I think,
exactly. But like you see with the roads a bit where it's like white people shouldn't rap, and it's like, why shouldn't they rap? Like, I mean,
shit.
I know, say that part, but at the same point, it's like, things are to be shared. Things are to be kind of like appreciated.
Exactly,
So it's like, it's
music
really nice.
Music,
I think that's after happening on a really good scale in Ireland. We used to look at England as being the centre for stuff like that. You go to London and like you go to fucking oh god, why can't I think of the name? Brixham. And it was just like fucking loads of different cultures melding, and like, even graffiti on the walls and the music, and where you kind of go, you feel like you're fucking
at the heart of like the world kind of a thing, where all these crossroads are meeting kind of a thing.
And it's nice to see that kind of happen on not as big a scale, but it kind of it's happened but it's happened very smoothly and organically.
It does seem to have, actually,
I think so,
for the most part. And that's the thing, I think the slight difference as well, I think, with Irish people is Irish people will ask questions to be curious, because they're just pure nosy and they're just interested in getting to know people, rather than asking questions to kind of like, you're different and I want to make a point of your differences. It's like, oh, you're a bit different, tell me all about yourself. Oh yeah, James, that's grand, wait, and I tell you about myself. It's this nice kind of a conversation going, rather than a trying to find the differences. It's trying to find the similarities and commonalities, I think. But that's very much off topic.
Well, as well, I think Irish people, as it's the thing with this, and you'll see a lot of, I think Irish made films, Irish people love stories, Irish people love storytelling, and Irish people love listening to stories. So there's an appreciation there, definitely with our generation. I think some of the younger generations don't have it as much, but where you kind of go to people and they're going to have their own story. Like, there was people I was working with when I was over in England that were from Africa. And my God, they had some great stories, like, just kind of where they were from and the things that they'd done, and, like amazing stuff. Like, there's one fella, he was like friends with Nelson Mandela. He worked with Nelson Mandela, basically. He was involved in the whole thing in South Africa, the protests and stuff. And it's just like, oh my God. And other people, he was nearly invisible to him or something like that, because people weren't asking things. It was just like, oh, kind of like whereas like the first time I was working on nights with him, was like, and it's like, my God, this is a wealth.
I think
stories,
that's what I've said it to you before. I think it is Irish people are just curious in general, because that's again harking back to when we went over to England. I'd be kind of like asking people, "Oh, such and such a place name. Where did that originate from, or what does that mean?" They'd be looking at it going, "It's just a place name. What do you mean?" I'm like, "Well, in Ireland, it'd be like Dune Moor would be like Big Fort or something like that translated. So it's like, oh, is there like a historical landmark?" And they're like, "Fucking, I don't know. I never thought about it. Never thought to ask it." Whereas when I went over, I was like, "Oh, right, so a ton means, this and, all this and all." Loads of, like, I knew the history of places just from researching.
Like what Barton was. I remember you talking about that because, like, Barton was everywhere.
Yeah, that's it. I was like, is there a family called Barton or is there a family called Ware? And I was kind of like, are there werewolves around here? And it's just like,
it was basically like a farm.
Everything seems to be like a farm, or like, there's Barton is like on a Barleyton, which is like a barley field, which is fairly common because obviously it's farming. But it's like, I remember saying it to some English friends, and like, I never knew that. And I was like, I'm living in a place called Barton. It's like, oh, sorry. But it's the nosiness and the curiosity, and I think the thread through to history, which again, going back to Frewaka, you have roots, and it's very interconnected back the way to your history, to your heritage, to your ancestors.
It is because I don't like. I mean, the thing is, I know like a lot of people over. I can understand why there's this thing. Say the closest thing we have to talk about is people from America, kind of like looking for coming back to Ireland. And going, oh, I'm third or fourth generation, or kind of people identifying as being like, oh, I'm Italian or Polish, or kind of like from Zambia, or when you're over in America, even though you're an American,
you're still also your heritage.
Where it's because like we all know fucking to like nearly a micro detail our history going back maybe 1,000 years in some case.
Yeah, some family trees are fucking...
Yeah, and even before fucking that, like, you know what I mean? Because like bizarrely, Irish people seem to really like bureaucracy and keeping fucking detailed notes on fucking shit. And like, I mean, that's what the monks used to do, kind of a thing. So you do have like... I can
births, marriages, and deaths all recorded and stuff, so you can trace your family tree back. Kind of.
But like I did, like I remember, like when we got the internet at first, I think I was like, oh, Google me surname, and then kind of like from Googling, so even though there's a lot of people by the name of Power, all of a sudden you can kind of go, oh fuck, that's my line, that's my, and it goes there, and it goes there, and it goes there, and then before you know it, you're fucking 600 years back, because that's really only 6 people, because. People, even regardless of what people always, people died in their 30s years ago. They fucking didn't. Unhealthy people did, or people that had to like work kind of like say down in mines or things. But like there was a lot of people in Ireland that look back and it's like, oh, they died in their 80s. They're really old. Oh, people before them died in their 90s. You kind of go, oh. But like I think say over in England, and although because like they had World War I and World War II, it would have been a lot of people dying like 18, 19, 20, I know we're getting way off.
That's how I was wondering how you were going with that. All right,
but kind of like roots. Say Frewaka.
Yes,
brilliant movie.
Jesus Christ. But again, it's, I suppose, harken back to the Irish love of storytelling. Not an awful lot happens in this.
Yeah.
You don't get to see fucking anything.
If it's not Lethal Weapon. Like, yeah.
But if you're looking for sort of like, oh my God, look at the special effects on that monster or something like that, this is not the film for you.
No.
It's all storytelling. It's weaving these kind of thoughts. It's leading you down a narrative. It's people talking to each other as well. There's a bit of exposition in conversation, which happens a lot in Irish life, I think, as well.
And it's... The characters are just really relatable. There's something about... I don't know. It's got that je ne sais quoi thing about it.
That's just French, not Irish.
But the French stole their language from us. But there's just something about it that it is one of those things that, like, I remember saying to you, I think you went to toilet or I went to toilet about halfway through it, and we're like, well, what do you think of it so far? And I was like, I really like it, and the two of us were kind of surprised that we kind of both really liked it.
Yeah.
Because it was like up at that point, nothing was after happening.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, nothing. And it's like the Irish thing. It was just really, really nice to see Ireland and the Irish language being represented in a normal fucking way. And it's just a really good movie. There is something about it. As a director, your woman Aisling Clarke is brilliant. I think she's one to watch. I think it's a shame that she's only managed to do 2 films so far over kind of it's quite obviously reliant on getting funded from
of course,
it like Irish like hopefully Frewaka will do a bit better now, especially when it's on Shudder. Hopefully you get a really big audience and people might kind of say, all right, like this is someone who we should be invested in. Because it's shot so well. There's some very subtle bits with mirrors going on in it that you fucking blink and you'll miss it, and it doesn't do like say like The Conjuring where it'll be fucking the music and it's jump scare shit. It's things that you will not even notice it, and you're not meant to really notice it. It's meant to be just there because the character doesn't notice it. So why would you notice? Because it's like it's not shot for the audience. It's like nearly like it's a fucking fly on the wall thing. There's no lingering shots. It's always on the character. Not like, the character walks out a shot and the camera zooms in on, like,
look at that.
Look at the doll under the bed. And at the end, I think it's nearly a kind of a, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But not a what the fuck. It's, you saw this coming, but
it's
you didn't
surprising.
think it's the way it's done. It's just very, and it's not even dreamlike. It's not even horrific. It's like just really good folk horror.
Yeah.
I think.
And again, as well, it is very good because you are still questioning kind of at the end, like, well, was this actually because of the whole thing, like, this not mental illness, but I suppose, there is that thing, kind of that strand going back, so you're not entirely sure.
Well, she does have hallucinations as well.
You're not entirely sure if, like, if it's actually happening or if it's like somebody's after badly misinterpreting something or like, what's exactly going on. There's so many different ways it could actually be spun if you want.
It is so good. I do hope that there's more films come out like it that are shot in Irish as well, because like I'm sure Kneecap had their film as well, which I think is mostly in Irish.
I don't know.
So it like the more films there are, because I can't, like when we were younger, the big fucking films that were like The Commitments. And when you look back at it, you go, The Commitments was actually like a really good depiction of how poor Ireland was.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the time, and thing like the other ones in the trilogy didn't really do as well. They didn't travel as much as The Commitments, but fucking was it Into the West?
Into the West, yeah.
Which was a bit like Diddly Eye.
Yeah, it was a bit, yeah.
And we only I've never saw it. What was it? The fucking thing with John Wayne.
Quiet Man.
The Quiet Man, yeah. We saw a bit of that over at your folks for.
Is that John Wayne?
Yeah.
Alright.
At fucking Paddy say this, and I never saw it, and you kind of look at it, and you're like, Jesus Christ, like what's. This is like, you can understand why people are like, but at the same point, there's parts where you kind of go,
you can kind of say, well, there's an awful lot of those, like The Flight of the Doves and all that kind of stuff. There's those kind of Irishy films.
Flight of the Doves? What's I never heard of?
I won't even bother getting into it now, but it's just all these, again, it's all like Aaron sweaters and fucking diddly eyes and pubs and that kind of thing, So I think this film is just, it's an awful lot more about just day-to-day reality in Ireland mixed in with that kind of magical history and background that is unfortunately seeping out of Ireland a little bit. I think, not saying we, but maybe the generation down from us are probably the last ones that were getting told tales of the Banshee and all of this, and the last one that would have had, say, we have a great Shanachie in the form of Eddie Lenihan. He would have had like a children's show on national television. That would have been
just seemed to be on television the whole fucking time.
Just sit down and listen to these fantastic folklore stories, but I don't think it's happening as much.
Eddie Lenihan does a thing for like Lawrence Shanachie. Shanachie is an Irish storyteller, kind of like book gathers like old stories and tells them to people. But he has, I think it's an online repository of like for free. He's been doing. He hasn't been getting paid by it, which. This is something that should be a governmental funded thing.
Yeah, it's cultural heritage.
Yeah, we're gathering tales from around parts of Ireland for fucking decades. These are probably 50 years or maybe more.
Yeah,
doing it. So like all these stories, and it's that thing that your dad was.
There's it's basically his historical repository website. They went around to all schools years ago. Like you're talking fucking back at the turn of the century nearly, and like. They were asking school children to write in their own words, sort of like a little bit about their locality and their history. So you have all these mad little things, and they're all uploaded straight to this website in the children's own handwriting, which is fucking beautiful, I might add.
Yeah.
Jesus, people were taught handwriting back in the day, you know, proper cursive
we were
script.
as well, sure. I think it was from second class you would have been taught cursive.
We were taught about, like, have you seen my handwriting? And my handwriting is
you
fucking
lose it though as you get older, like when you have the time to do it.
But this is like something you'd see out of fucking monk scripture. It's like this beautiful handwriting. And laying out all these mad little sort of folklore tales, like there's tales of, like, you know, people living up in the hills in a cave, and all the kids had all the stories about it, and it's fantastic wealth of, like, Irish history just there free for anybody to access.
There was, I think, when the population was so diminished as well, like people were there, like you're living quite a distance from each other in some parts of Ireland, so people are fucking really out there on their own, like, so like even nowadays you're at the mercy of nature.
Yeah. No, sure, that's if you go back to, not even, just past one generation past me, both of there's sets of parents that are, or grandparents, I should say, were living up in the side of a mountain in a house with a tin roof, and like you had to walk like fucking 10 miles to get to the nearest village, never mind the nearest town, kind of a thing. Sure,
that was a thing my father used to talk about when they moved, because my father would have been from a town. My mother was kind of what would now be the suburbs, I suppose, kind of mixture, kind of like, then, but they moved out further from that thing. It was like her parents gave them a house out in the middle of what would have been nowhere. Now it's not the middle of nowhere, but like you had to walk for miles to get to a well to get water. So people used to be doing that numerous times a day.
Yeah.
And my father he got like a bat and put it onto like a fucking
as in like a BATH. Yeah. So you said it sounded like a flying rodent. Thing. Yes,
but onto a bolt. Sorry, fucking imperialistic. But onto a pram wheels, so he could push it and he'd fill it up and he'd have enough water for a couple of days. And they were like, oh my God, and my father was like, oh my God, they're morons.
They're obviously out your way, because that's what they all used to do out this way, is they get the baby's pram and they put the milk jars in it, and you should be able to fill up your water then at the well. So obviously there's idiots out your way, which is...
Well, there wasn't even my way. Yeah, but we were the ones that kind of like educated him.
Yeah,
kind of like with benevolence.
Yeah.
You know,
laziness.
He was like fucking.
Laziness is the mother of invention, I think.
He was like, what the is it? I should really know this because like with the occult stuff, it doesn't matter.
Never mind. Frewaka, go and watch it.
Yeah, brilliant.
Fantastic
Absolutely
film.
Brilliant movie. Yeah. We've rattled on about loads of shit.
Random shit.
And that's probably what the podcast is going to be from now on.
Well, has it ever been anything different?
No, it hasn't. But yeah, really, really, really good. Hopefully it'll introduce some people to the Irish language.
Exactly.
And hopefully it'll set a trend. I don't think it will, because I think it's such a small movie.
I don't know, even if all it does is get somebody like me who knows a bit of Irish, can't speak Irish, and actually kind of, do you know what, I'm going to go back, and there's a couple of like local groups that will get together to speak Irish. Maybe I'll just go down and speak Irish.
That's the thing, it'd be those kind of people I don't think will even know the film is fucking out there, though. Like your dad, he's like he goes off to these things.
He's very interested in the Irish language and history.
He doesn't have a clue about this. And then how would he even watch it?
Yes, I'll be telling him, and I'll be getting him a copy of the film to watch.
Where?
On Shudder.
How can you get him a copy of it on Shudder?
Well, I'll get him Shudder.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. you're not going to like you know the way my aunt went today, that we thought she was having a stroke and she was like fucking waiting for you to react to her being like really annoyed about something, and you were kind of like,
you see, my brain was just literally just caught in a loop going, does not compute. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yes, I'll get Shudder and he can watch it on Shudder. We have Shudder. I'll just get him over to watch Shudder.
Yes. But look, thank you for listening. Gara Mahagut.
Yes. Tommy Arash Nish Harish on Shockton Shogun.
Tommy Egg Ihiv Sov.
You're eating jam.
August Madra
and dogs.
Diaz.
Jesus Christ. Yes, that was actually one last thing I'll say. It's always great being able to speak Irish abroad, because people think, oh, so lyrical, tell me something else in Irish, and people rattle off the two phrases they remember from school.
Yeah,
which is,
on
go back to me on Leherish, Malta, the Holly, and it's like, can I go out to the toilet, please? And people are like, oh, so romantic and sexy.
No, they don't. They're probably like, what is this? Is that the track or the tracky?
No, it's a very lyrical language.
Yeah.
But yes. Anyway.
Yeah, look, until next time, thank you for listening, and we'll see you then, because we can see through your speakers and your headphones.